In this video, we bring together 3 of the best current montage editors. We have Bradek, also known as Lights, DoubleAA, and Zentz Productions. And what we did is we got clips from Chris DX1, and then we got music from someone also within the community. His name was Mr. Person. We're gonna have each editor edit 1/3 of the video. They're not gonna see each other's sections. Then we're gonna combine them all together here, and we're all gonna watch and react to everyone's videos. I gave them a theme, and the theme was Adrift, or you could say Lost. And that was pretty much it. They got the music, they got the clips, and they got the theme, and we're gonna see how it all flows together. But what's also nice is I asked them all to record their process and talk about, well, their process and their editing. And we're gonna watch each person talk about that and then go into their clip or go into their section. We're gonna watch, react to it, and then we're gonna watch it all together and see how well it flows. So let's check it out.
Hello, I'm Bradek. I had a lot of fun working on my portion of the montage, and I'm really curious and excited to see how the full thing turns out. I started by blocking out a rough sync of the clips to the music. I didn't add any effects or speed ramps, I just cut the clips so that the kills landed on the beat. I actually started this process at the very end of my segment because I knew I wanted the last kill of the last clip to fall on the last big beat. So I lined up the final kill to the beat, and I worked backwards from there. Before the first clip, I actually left about 10 seconds of empty space at the very beginning of the video. The song has a very nice, calm build-up, and I thought that would be perfect for a quick little intro. I had an idea for a cinematic opener that would introduce my take on the theme for the video, which was Adrift and Lost. Speaking of that, I should touch on how I interpreted that theme and how I plan to incorporate it into my edit. From the moment I saw the theme was Adrift and Lost, immediately my mind went to the image of an astronaut drifting through space. I wanted to lean into that kind of outer space idea using imagery of purple colors and stars and a floating person through space. And I wanted to keep the syncing smooth and graceful also. The next step was to add some basic effects, which are things like screen pumps, flashes, shakes, and blurs. And on the flashes, I decided to give them a slight purple tint in order to lean into that space aesthetic. I wanted these effects to add an extra kick to emphasize the kills without being so prominent that they are distracting. After I finished these basic effects, I moved on to some more complex effects. First, I wanted to add some lens flares to draw the eye to certain objects in a way that adds some visual flair, pun intended. I wanted to make the lens flares purple, once again, for that space aesthetic. And I also made them a little horizontal in order to replicate the anamorphic lens flares that are common in sci-fi movies. I had this idea for an effect in the first clip, which was a ripple coming off of the grenade that bounces off the wall. Next, I wanted to add the third-person angles. I recreated the gameplay in a custom game with the help of a couple friends, and then I recorded shots in theater. I always record many variations of every angle in order to give myself options to work with. Then I moved on to color grading. I made the whole video have a slight purpley blue tint, curves to fine-tune the brightness levels, and a glow to diffuse the highlights of the image. Now it was finally time to work on the intro sequence that I had in mind. Since the theme was Adrift and Lost, I wanted to open with the image of a Spartan adrift in space. My idea was that the Spartan would float near a battle rifle, then you would grab the BR and it would smoothly transition into the first clip. I decided that this would be a good opportunity to challenge myself to use Blender, since I barely used that software in the past. And luckily for me, the Halo Archive Discord community makes high-quality Halo models available for free, which made my job a lot easier. I based the pose of the Spartan off of a Halo 4 image of Master Chief floating in space. The most difficult animation was getting the Spartan to grab the battle rifle, since I had a lot of trouble keeping his fingers from clipping too much into the gun. It didn't end up perfect, but I'm happy with how the intro ended up. I wanted to incorporate that outer space theme in other parts of the edit by replacing the sky of one of the angles with stars. But now that I finished the visuals of my edit, the final step was to add sound effects. This is the only part of the process that I do in Adobe Premiere Pro. Using Silly Goose's Halo 3 sound pack, I scrubbed through the video and dropped in gunshots, explosions, and announcer voices, etc. at the proper moments, making sure everything lined up nicely with the music. I also added miscellaneous sound effects like whooshes to parts of the video that sounded a little empty. Then I adjusted the audio levels to keep everything feeling balanced, and my edit was finished. I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, he already put in so much more work than I did. Oh no. Yeah, this is sick.
Really cool. Oh, wow.
I didn't know he was into 3D stuff. Hell yeah.
He reversed.
That was clean. Oh, I want to pause and go
Ooh,
back.
that was a really
can't.
nice effect. That was some good tracking. Ooh. Nice.
Nice sound mixing.
Really, really cool.
But like the mask in the background.
It sounds really good. The song's nice for this. I'm yelling because the music's so loud in my ear.
Love the visor effect.
Oh, I forgot it's so short because it's going to go into the next part. Yo, I'm hyped for this. That was sick.
I think we each had about 50 seconds to play around with. This space scene, I'm assuming went into theater. Although, is that theater or is that 3D? Bradek, I'm curious to see how you did this one.
That was sick. First, this 3D sequence was really well done. It's actually kind of cool because us three editors, we didn't really talk about our projects. I mean, we tried not to as best we could. So it's kind of cool that I have a little 3D sequence and he has a 3D sequence and they kind of go together a little bit. So that's really cool. The intro was really well done.
So the theme was Adrift, and it looks like Bradek took it with the kind of like a space theme. So the beginning here, Spartan adrift in space, and then kind of carried that through with the angle.
The drift theme was there, and it worked with the music too. I'm thinking next time I'll make a theme that does not go with the music to see how that goes.
It's making me question some of the decisions I made on my edit already. So we'll see how it all flows together.
This is by far my favorite effect. It's tracked almost perfectly, I think. Yeah, this is great.
The sound mixing and the speed ramp, like the flow of it was great.
And I like how there's a little purple flare there. And there was also, I think, a purple flare. Was it on the triple? Yeah. So I like the consistency there. That was really nice. That was really well done.
I did notice you used some whooshes in here, some sound effects. So really like that addition as well.
I heard some whooshes, and I like myself some whooshes, especially when they're subtle, which it was here.
It looks good.
Yeah, man, this was great. It's interesting too looking at it because I think this was in 60 FPS, which mine was not. I went with the old route of 30 FPS, so that'll be interesting to see put together. I don't know how well it will work.
I'm excited to see the next one, see how it flows together. But that was awesome.
Really curious to see how Aaron carries that through.
My name is Aaron, or DoubleAA, and I will be breaking down my portion of this 3 editors thingy. I got the middle part of the song. I am the middle child. I am the one who either gets away with everything or gets blamed for everything. So it's up to you guys on which version of the middle child I am for this video. But let's break it down. When I first put together a video like this, I pretty much just listened to the song over and over again for a couple days. For this middle part of the song, there's about room for 3, maybe 4 clips. And then the second part has a slower section, which would probably be good for angles or some cool effect. Also, I really hope that I was assigned the middle one, because if I got that wrong, that's going to be really awkward when the final video comes out. So when I first start on the actual project, the first thing I do, which I think is kind of unconventional, I always start with the audio first. A lot of people would put markers to put the major sync points. I just go straight with the audio first. I don't even focus on the video. So I pretty much laid out all of the sniper shots, the battle rifle shots, because with the audio on the timeline first, visually, I can actually see if the shot sound effect files are too close together or too far apart. I like just going through the process of listening to see if it sounds good first. And then the clips can actually kind of fall into place visually too. So that's what I did first. One thing I like to do a lot, I think more people should do more often, is I sync a lot of movement points. While I do think it's better to use speed ramping and have gradual slowing down or gradually speeding up and what have you, I'm lazy. So I just took specific points of the clips where I needed to speed it up, and I would just cut it up, speed it up, and have it kind of as a sync point beat rather than using a whole speed ramp graph. And then I left room for a few angles just because I wanted to include some angles into this, but also there was a few parts in a few of the clips where I didn't want to have it drag out and be super slow at a part in between shots. And then when it came to the angles, it could take anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours just for one angle. And I think I finished all of these in a matter of an hour total. With the angles, there was one really interesting transition that I did. It's one of those things where it just came to me and I was like, hey, that could look cool, where the camera pans back, cuts to the next shot, and hey, let's have him switch to the BR at the start of the next clip. The snipe to BR transition where he switches, it's not master or anything, it's using, and you'll see this in the other footage that I gave, it's using reshade using, I think it's the chroma key effect, which is pretty much just a green screen. So I use that to get a green screen cutout of the snipe switching to a BR. And then I tweak the color correction a little bit so it kind of tries to fit with the maps a little bit, because it's not always perfect when you do that. When it came to the eventual color correction, I kind of went for a slightly bluer tone. I made it very dark where it's illuminating some of the highlights, but the highlights are blue. At the very end of my section, or right after my section of the song ends, when the next editor will finish off the song, it ends on a drop, or it starts on a drop. I kind of wanted it to be this soul, slow, blue, alone atmosphere that right at the end lights up a little bit, and that's with the 3D sequence, which I will get to in a minute. This effect right here, I kind of thought it would be cool to either have a clear indication of my part of the song starting, or I don't know, I haven't seen his part. It's possible this lines up perfectly and fades together beautifully. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But I use that to kind of just bring my section of the edit together. This effect right here was using a colorama and I think the Twitch effect in a few blending modes. And this was to simulate, there's this kind of weird, I don't even know how to describe it, but there's this weird sound in the song, which I wanted to highlight. So that's why that was there. The last thing I did was I went and just retouched up the audio, and that's always something I do. If I wanted to add metal audio or whooshes or little grenade throw sound effects or things like that, that's at the very end where I will go and put those together. And one of the things I did was I added a whoosh sound. I think 2 whoosh sounds actually to the transition here. One little tip, I know this is more of a breakdown rather than a tutorial, but I'm going to go into tutorial mode for a minute. If you have kind of a basic whoosh sound, which I do, one thing you can do is if you just add a bass boost effect and a low pass effect, that can actually help kind of blend it together a little bit. And then the very last thing is this little 3D sequence at the end. Little scene that kind of goes with the theme. The Spartan is kind of sitting there. He's kind of alone. It's kind of lonely and depressing a little bit with only one single area light shining him. And then at the very end, it gets brighter, and the animation, he lifts up his head to kind of say, like, no, we're going to keep going, which will then lead into the last section. So that's pretty much the thought process there. So I hope you guys like it, and I'm excited to see the other 2 editors work.
You had some cool particles there at the beginning. Some nice angles.
Oh, clips are dirty.
Really like that.
Nice.
I like that.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that was clean
That was a
too.
cool pullback transition.
Oh shit, that's part of it.
Man, Halo 3 is perfect for montages.
Slow it down a little bit.
I like that slow-mo before the kill.
I like the
Nice, nice. That's the part for the
ghosting.
song.
He's matching the
In the
slow part of the
background,
song
that's really
with a very slow part of the
That
edit.
part's really floaty,
It
like a
fades
drift
to
that fits.
black. There's some images
Oh
of
shit, what's he doing?
maps. It looks like I can't tell. It's a
This is
little
me more
dark
hyped
for
than
me.
watching my videos. This shit's sick.
I like the blue tint he has over it.
What? He's created a transition into the next part without seeing the next part. Damn. That's cool. Okay, so DoubleA's part. Fit the drift theme too, even because if you notice in the song it changes. We actually, like when we broke it down, the song literally has different parts and they're gonna kind of flow together. So his part was a lot slower.
It's interesting seeing the theme carried through. I think DoubleA kind of tackled it with more of like a ghosting effect, isolated loneliness on some of the maps with the angles towards the end.
Okay, so that was DoubleA's section. Really clean. I mean, like always, he has really good syncing, and the angles really supplement the clips. They show what's going on very well. I like what he did with the slow section of the song.
Ghosting effect is really cool. I really like how you did that. I think it's a really unique way to tackle that. I think a lot of people just throwing a glitch effect on it, right? And something really simple. I think his part was excellent. Really well done. Loved how he tackled the second song of the series, carrying the theme through. I think this thing's going to look excellent when it's all put together. 2 parts are really strong.
It'll be interesting to see how it cuts together with the space stuff at the beginning, but that was awesome.
Okay, now let's check out Zentz Edit.
My name is jrdnzntz. I am known as VA Blackhawk or Zentz Productions in the Halo community. Haven't done this before. It's really weird jumping into the third part of an edit without having seen what the two before you were doing. As I'm approaching an edit, the first thing that I do is I'll create organization bins. So I create 5. I do gameplay, sound effects, music, After Effects renders for later in the edit, and I'll do angles. I'll drop the song, give it a couple listens. I'll go through and I'll mark the song up. So I use M on my keyboard for Premiere, sets a marker. I'll do that on all the major sync points that I know I want to hit, or I'll use it to try and figure out some sort of flow of the song. Once I have that down, I'll go through and I'll mark my footage individually. At every gunshot, I'll put a marker on the gunshot. Probably double work, but once I've done that, I go back through and I'll time remap to make the clip look smooth. Once I have it looking smooth, then I'll go through and I'll start working on some audio. I do a quick audio pass. I go through and I drop the correct sound effects in that I want. Then I'll start working on the angles themselves. And that usually takes the most amount of time in a Halo project. A lot of time's gonna be spent there, a lot of tries, a lot of just messing around in theater to see what looks good. Once I've done everything in Premiere, what I'll do is I'll then take this footage, drop it into After Effects, and then it allows me to go through and clean up transitions. I can add effects onto clips that I want them, do some color correction, kind of manipulate the footage any way I want to. First thing that I did is I wanted to work on the transition from song 2 to song 3. Not quite sure what Aaron is going to do with how he ends his song. I wanted to at least anticipate it being some sort of fade. What I've come up with was a kind of like a line flash whip pan into the first sniper shot. The way that I did this was I took an angle as it whips through, went into theater, had to mock this up. I threw a find edges on it, and I kind of messed around with the properties so that way it flashed. So kind of going with the Lost theme, what I'd come up with was it was an artistic photo I found of kind of a lost portrait. That was kind of my basis of what I was working off of. So the picture itself is black and white with kind of like white rays coming through. I didn't want to go black and white for the footage itself. So I was trying to play off the ray distortion, kind of creating that angelic type effect. So this is an interesting part. I knew when I got this song 3, this was going to be one of the highlight moments of the edit. Really trying to figure out how I wanted to capture this. I knew I wanted to do some sort of flash effect. The audio happens really quickly, so I needed something that would just kind of flash and give you that visual. One of my approaches to editing is gameplay first, edit second. So I want to do angles in between down parts of clips, angles in between transitions, and then try and do my effects to complement the gameplay versus taking away from it. So as I was editing this, I tried to pan it in a way that I had the depth set very close. So as I got closer to the Spartan, he would stay blurred, but the sniper came into focus. Pull this out of like movies. There's a lot of cinematographers that use this effect. Don't know what it's called. I know it looks cool. So I tried to replicate it here with my angles. So this is, I think where my edit will probably differ from others is I was using the theater files and I used reshade for the back half of my edits. I anticipated Aaron potentially not using reshade or angles and probably having to stage a couple of things. And not quite knowing what direction his edit was going, with the first half of my song being a little bit more traditional with the earlier portions of the song itself. I wanted to go more conservative with my effects. And then as it hits this switch up, I really wanted to lean heavily into this reshaded, glowy, heavenly type feel. I kind of wanted to be lost in like the either kind of blown out highlights, but only at a certain distance. It's kind of like you can't quite get it in focus. You're kind of lost within your own mind. And that was kind of what I played into here. I find that when you have no HUD clips, I like to try and incorporate the metals or something that's going in the clip to kind of recenter or rebring in the audience. So you're not just like, where are we in this clip? So this is kind of my attempt at doing that. Again, it's still blurred. It's not necessarily the cleanest, but it was simple and effective. This angle, this one, took me hours to get right because I couldn't get the focus right. And you only see it for like 3 frames, so that's how it works sometimes. So I really like this angle. I wanted to keep the gameplay underneath so I could show the Kill Frenzy medal coming in. For you Halo 2 purists, it's a Kill Frenzy. For those of us who are probably young and our fingers still work, we call it a Killtacular. Now I'll show you, once I render this, what I do in Premiere with the next steps. I threw a saturation effect on here. It's subtle. It doesn't pull too much, but it just takes some of the color out. You'll see the reds fade. I knew I wanted to do something unique to match the sound effect here. So what I did was, on this beat, hit my lens effect, zoomed in, but I also threw that CC looks on top of it. Kind of just pulled it in. It's only for a few frames, so you don't really notice it too much. But I knew that the light was going to shoot outwards, so as it pulled in and then shot out, kind of matches this. This has been a really fun project. I really appreciate Hastings bringing us all together, pitching the idea. It sounded like a lot of fun when he pitched it. It's been a lot of fun to edit. It was really challenging to figure out, get into the headspace of the other editors and say, how are they going to tackle this song, knowing that my part's last, and essentially am responsible for kind of stamping this thing home, because as people watch montages, usually it escalates right into the final part. And hope you guys enjoy. Thanks again to Chris for donating his clips, and really appreciate Mr. Person for letting us use his music.
This is Zentz part. We'll see how it flows together. As you can see, it's getting darker out, so I gotta turn my lights on.
Capture the flag.
He had the announcer voice to start off with. I like the black and white there after the
Nice angle.
Ooh, that clip was sick. And then the angle afterwards to show the explosion was nice.
That was sick.
Whoa,
The angle works so good.
that was sweet.
Ooh, that dolly cam, that depth of field.
He really did a good job of matching the song visually.
That was nice. And the depth of field makes it look so clean.
There has
Look at
to
all
be
the effects.
the camera mod, the dolly cam. Such smooth camera.
Angle works so good. I can't wait to see this all together. I feel like people like this as a standalone montage. Like, obviously, they're all good, and this part's sick. I mean, all the parts are sick. But, like, it works together.
Okay.
I like the way he blew out the white background there. And then it ends on the guy getting sniped. That was so cool. I mean, the angle work there was just amazing.
That was sick, too. I'll have, like, different little touches on Adrift. I feel like he used a lot of depth of field.
Dude, this was really interesting. It's completely different than what I just watched on the first one, and it's completely different from mine, which I think is really cool at the same time. This one had a lot of style to it.
He really matched the song with the visuals very well.
Yeah, the use of depth of field was really cool in this.
And then he also, I believe, was using the dolly cam, which was a mod someone from the community has made. Lets you go in and get some of those ridiculous angles and flow like that. And I feel like he really used the depth of field and to kind of create that floaty Adrift feeling, especially with like when the HUD is out of focus, but the gun almost isn't. Like there was a lot there.
Yeah, so there was that one part where the song kind of has a record scratch, and he matches that by cutting into an angle of the enemy that's on screen, and then it like flashes black and white. I thought that was really well done.
But the angle work, I think, is definitely the best. You can definitely tell the angles are a step up from the other ones. The angles where he's throwing the sticky, yeah, these are some really cool angles.
I do find it really interesting how Zentz used way more angles than both DoubleAA and myself because he had access to the replay mod, or he decided to use the replay mod. So I guess you got to take advantage of that if you have it, and he really did. these shots just look so amazing. They have depth of field on them as well. I didn't even notice that at first, but
They all kind of like different touches on Adrift, so I can't wait to put it all together and watch it. So
both of those edits were so cool. They did a great job there. It kind of felt like we all had a very cohesive vision, because I think it's going to just work together pretty well.
I kind of hope we can do something like this again sometime, or have different editors do different sections or something if this video does well. So yeah, let's see. But thanks for having me. This was cool.
I know Chris has been wanting someone to edit his clips for a while now, and I think he's going to be pleasantly surprised to see what's been done with them. This is excellent.
at the very end here, let's slap it all together and let's just watch it one time through.
Capture the flag.